Welcome, everyone, back to another episode of the Offer Oracle podcast. This is your host, Alyssa Knapp, and I'm so excited to be welcoming my guest and friend, Engy. And Engy, I'm so excited to chat with you and connect with you, especially you are the first person here on this series that I'm doing on this podcast, which is highlighting offers that are changing the world. Because I really
Mm.
believe, as holistic entrepreneurs, spiritual entrepreneurs, people who are really doing the work that is coming from our soul, coming from our purpose, this is really the medicine that we need on this planet right now. And Engy, I'm so particularly, thrilled about the work that you're doing. The modalities that you use, including theta healing, is one that I personally feel super connected to. And you being somebody who's come from corporate and really bringing this work into the world of high achieving women and executives and everything else, I think is so powerful and important because we really need people in positions of leadership to be grounded, to be centered, to be in alignment. And again, this is the ripple effect, right? Like this is really um how we shift and change things, which is really, really cool and really exciting. So, Engy, first, if you want to just introduce yourself and kind of take us to the beginning, like take us to the beginning of your origin story, where you were before you got into this world of energy healing.
Yeah. So thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to have this conversation with you. My name is Engy Neville, and I am the founder of Embracing Zen with Engy. And the idea of Embracing Zen with Engy came to me while I was in corporate, and I ignored the idea because I was not ready for this kind of a shift. My career started 30 years ago in corporate leadership and marketing and global brand management. And I loved what I did. I loved working on global brands and helping them see a different path forward or an expanded path forward to deeply connect with their customer base, with their clients, with their own story. I loved all of it. But I found that while I was successful in my career on paper, deep down, I often felt very empty and I felt very depleted and burnt out. And every successful or success milestone I achieved, it didn't last. First, it arrived with a lot of friction, and it arrived with a lot of fighting and clawing on my end and self-sacrifice and overperforming, because that's what I felt was required for me to deserve the promotion, to be seen, to be recognized. And I started to notice that other people were not quite having that same experience as me. Their joy with the milestones they were having seemed to be sustainable, where mine were happy in the moment. And within an hour later, I was feeling back to the way I was before. So I started this journey of self development because I was curious. I have always been very curious about human behavior, about how we think about things, how we analyze things, why do things mean certain things. And I was curious about the world and the universe and how all of these things work together in collaboration for something to actually happen. So my own curiosity about me led me down the path of understanding me more deeply. And as I started to lean into understanding myself, my own intuition, my sense of self had changed. It started to change. And I started to notice that my own struggles were as a direct result of my own belief systems about myself. And that was very jarring. It was very jarring to, and I will not be emotional on this podcast, but it was very jarring for me to realize how mean I was to myself. All of the compassion and kindness and understanding that I extended to everyone in my life, from family to friends to colleagues to the team that reported to me, somehow in my mind, all of that ended when it came to myself. And I judged myself so harshly, and I was my own worst critic. And I started to ask myself, well, then why? Why is this coming up? And that's when I started to really dive into belief systems. And I was doing it for me. And then I started to offer it up to the team in terms of how can we work together more collaboratively? How can we work together from the lens of understanding and together coming to a successful outcome? And by gently, working in corporate, there's only so many conversations you can have about um, oneness and spirituality and understanding yourself deeply. But I was doing it in a very gentle way where it wasn't specifically diving into one modality or another, but it was taking the teachings and the principles from NLP, from theta healing, from quantum, and infusing them into the talk track that I was having during coaching moments with my team, during collaboration sessions with the extended team. And the energy started to change when it started with deadline driven pressure, um, maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome, and it started to become more collaborative. And while that may not seem like a massive shift in corporate, that's huge. It's huge to shift from an I to a we. And it's huge to shift from I need to how can I be of help to you to get you to where you need to go. And to me, that was very eye-opening. And so I continued on the path of deeply understanding how all of this stuff works together. And I became certified in NLP and theta healing and started practicing quantum. But none of it was because I had wanted to open up this business or I thought this was the next chapter. It was truly for me and then the corporate team. So that's how it all started, curiosity and love for understanding the why behind all things.
That's so beautiful. I feel like so
Mm,
many people can relate to Engy to just where you felt and where you were at that place. And
yeah.
also, I feel like this is something that a lot of us do recognize but don't say out loud enough. The reality that so many of us, even those who do appear successful or happy or joyful or whatever, do have a lot of those undercurrents of unworthiness,
Mhm.
and how much it runs the show. I know that's absolutely been the case for myself. It's still a journey that I'm on of recognizing. Just recently I was in an experience where I went through, I was connecting with my higher self and connecting with, my future self and all of these things. And my mind kept kind of like wandering to like the to-do list and the things. And then, I said, like, why are we doing this? Like, what's going on? And I heard because you still don't feel worthy of receiving what you're trying to call in right now, So it's
Yeah.
really wild and really sneaky. I feel like how some of these things come up. So it's a lifelong journey, right? Like these are tools that I think that we always have to keep coming back to again and again. And I think life will always present different situations that
Mhm.
give us opportunities to see these lessons again and continue to learn them and to integrate and to see that worthiness. So now sort of like taking a bigger look at kind of your journey and where you've been and not even recognizing that, this even was sort of going to be a business. When did that shift happen? Like when did you recognize and realize that okay, like this is a thing. Like I have something here.
Yeah. So it happened in twofold. So remember, I said like my career had been filled with struggle and friction, and every milestone was achieved through self-sacrifice and overperforming. So, which led me down to understanding all of the ways in which we think and manage ourselves and make decisions. So, the last chapter in my corporate career was not that, right? My last chapter in my corporate career was easy, it was fun. It was collaborative. I felt seen. I felt appreciated. And the only change there is because I had changed how I saw myself. And so that last stretch, that last chapter in corporate, where I was fully present and I was fully conscious and making decisions from a space of expansion versus fear, self-sabotage. And so I started to recognize in that role that my favorite part of the day was when I coached the team, was when I was having one-on-one sessions with someone that directly reported to me or had a dotted line to me. And that was kind of an eye opener because I never saw myself as a coach. I never saw myself as a mentor, but it had always been a through line of what I loved in the different roles that I had throughout my career. But now it was like a flashlight was on this part of my role, and I wanted to do more of it. And I wanted to sort of like um, look at my role and create more space to do more of it. Well, the universe is always listening. And so as I'm having this realization, things started to happen at work that changed the trajectory of where the company was going. And layoffs started to happen. And I was one of the layoffs, and many waves happened after me. But when that happened, my first instinct was thank you for the redirection. And because I learned at this point, I had learned that any kind of a shift is a redirection and it's guidance. And so I thought, okay, now I can either go back to something familiar or I actually could lean into the thing that had been bringing me so much joy and fulfillment in this last chapter, which was the last 7 years of my corporate career. And so I did just that. I remembered that embracing Zen with Engy had been tucked in the back of my mind. And I thought, it's still sitting there and likely for a reason. And I need to see this through. It felt very purpose driven for me to see it through.
And what year was that? How long ago was that?
So this was about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago
It's
that this
fairly recently.
pivot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we must have talked about this at some point in one of our conversations, but we have a similar story in that journey where that was where I started with my business too, was well, the company I was working for went bankrupt. And so I
Mm,
got, laid off kind of by default. Um, and same thing, it was like, all right, do I want to keep doing this or do I want to do something that like I feel really passionate about, right? Like, do I want to work for somebody else or do I want to
yeah.
work for myself? And so I love that. I love that. And I love that you ended on such a positive chapter too with
Yeah.
corporate life, right? And I
Yeah.
think oftentimes too when it comes to manifesting and everything, that's one of the things that's so important. It's like the thing that we want doesn't always come because we're wanting it so badly. It's because we're appreciating what we have, right? So
Mm,
I feel like also you couldn't even have stepped into this next chapter without having that sense of everything that you just mentioned, right? Feeling appreciated, feeling seen, right? Feeling all of those things like I feel like those set you up so well to then, launch into entrepreneurship, which, we know weighs on us in very many different ways. It challenges us in crazy ways all the time,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's beautiful, beautiful.
Mm.
Can you talk a little bit about your offers and what it is that you do, who you work with? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So while I was in corporate, and I am now in this zone, right? And I like to think of it as in this divine guidance zone. Like when we are deeply connected to ourselves, possibility surrounds us and we're able to actually see it. And that was another shift that I had experienced. And so, in this space of I could do anything, I am capable of doing anything. I have arrived and I deserve and I'm worthy to be here. And it was a very new way at the time of me feeling like I don't have to fight. I don't have to work in a way that compromised my health, my mental well being, my emotional well being to be seen and to be appreciated and valued. So, being in that space, and I just feel it was important to mention that I was in this euphoric. And I intentionally use the word euphoric because when you're deeply connected to yourself, it's pure joy. And I was going to lunch one day. I worked in Wall Street. I was walking to lunch and I received this message, this beautiful message of you need to create a program that helps others on their journey of finding themselves, connecting, heightening their intuition, aligning to purpose, and living life from consciously versus navigating life on autopilot, being in a loop, working through patterns repeatedly, but not recognizing the patterns. So at the time, I called, I went back to my desk. I'll backtrack. I went back to my desk and I wrote it longhand in a notebook. And I saw it clearly in my mind, modules, coursework within them, homework, journaling. But I didn't feel at the time that I wanted to launch this course because I'm deeply entrenched in corporate. I was an executive leader, and the course bridges spirituality and the corporate world. And I didn't feel I was quite ready yet to put something like that out there. So when I was laid off, now the calling got louder. And I felt that this is the course that needed to come out into the world to help the former version of me arrive at the me that I had been. So this course, I had called it Living with Purpose initially. And it is the course that came to me that I ended up launching into the world for the former version of me, the version of me that did struggle through every decision and didn't see the writing on the wall, that didn't see that my own talk track to myself was creating my personal reality of hell.
Mm.
So this personal reality of hell lasted for almost 10 years. That's a long time to be in this loop, in this self-sabotage cycle, in this I don't feel good about me. So then why should anyone else feel good about me? So I created Living with Purpose and then ended up changing the name to Awaken because as I was thinking about living with purpose, it felt very limiting to one aspect of the course when the course is about so much more. It's about learning the tools to connect to yourself, to connect to divine wisdom. It's knowing how to bring yourself back to a neutral state of being when in a moment of anxiety, when uncertainty is at your doorstep, when the unknown feels very scary, and staying in a place where it's predictable and you know the outcomes is much safer. But we all know that staying within the confines of safety is a limiting way to live. And staying in the cycle of the known is also a limiting way to live. There's no expansion in that, there's no growth in that. It feels comfortable, but over time, it starts to feel like you've hit a wall. And it starts to feel like, well, what else is out there? And why is it available for everybody but me? So the course touches on all of that, plus um, heightening emotional intelligence, right? Many of us were born with this, right? All children, all babies are highly intuitive. Their emotional intelligence, reading the room, right, is there. But through childhood, school years, society, family, extended family, all those things become suppressed. And when they become suppressed, we stop hearing the divine guidance and wisdom that is available to us. And so I wanted this course to remind people of who they truly are, to awaken the souls that are ready to their higher purpose, to their intuition, to their divine guidance. And so there are different, it's a build throughout the course so that by the time you arrive at the latter modules, it's 8 modules, but it's 22 lectures that I recorded myself teaching because I wanted the individual taking the course to truly understand the teachings, how to use the different modalities for different things, and how to truly begin to recognize what is keeping them from not having the thing they desire most in life. So that's
Mm.
one of the offers. And it's called Awaken, and it is currently available. And I have a couple students in it already who are already saying what I was hoping they would get out of it, which is presence. They're feeling the impact of their presence in their own life
Mm.
and beginning to recognize the loops that they have been in, which is incredible.
It is incredible. It is
Mm.
incredible. And I feel like there's something really important that happens too when somebody makes that commitment to sign up for something like that, that gives the it's like it gives momentum to that intention of actually making change in your life. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, we can read the books, we can listen to Joe Dispenza on YouTube, you know what I mean? Like there are these things that we can do, but there's really something about, I feel like, making that investment and actually learning the skills that are necessary and doing that deeper work. And oftentimes it is really just doing something like that to just slow you down enough to recognize what's going on, because self-awareness is everything, right? Like if we just have that awareness of what the story is that's being told and what behaviors are being repeated, what patterns are being repeated, there's so much medicine in that, even without doing anything different than just being like, okay, let me pause and actually see. And like, ooh, I'm recognizing how I'm responding in the situation. And because I'm slowing down, I can actually stop and choose to respond in a different way, right? Or instead of react, respond, right? Like that sort of thing, which
Yeah.
is, it's really, really important. So tell us a little bit about, like where does this offer sit, like where does Awaken sit in the world, like what gap do you see that this fills out in the wild?
Yeah. So a lot of the coursework that is out there, a lot of the things that are being discussed out there is conceptual and the theory and the principles, but there is very little direct guidance around how to actually embody the teachings. How
Mm,
do you embody and how do you apply and integrate what you are learning? And there is a gap in that because there is a lot of discussion around the what is and what is the outcome, but there's a huge timeline gap between intellectual understanding and integration.
mm,
And the how to is a very important part that we tend to gloss over and not really take the time to deeply understand, well, how does that integrate? What needs to be let go of in order for this thing to integrate? And what is the mindset that I need to be in to deeply embody this way of thinking? So I feel like there is that. The other thing that the course addresses is recognizing what self abandonment looks like and the lack of connectivity looks like. A lot of the challenges that I saw in corporate and that I see with my clients today is it looks like self abandonment, right? I'm not going to listen to what my body is screaming at me. I am not going to listen to that intuitive signal that is poking at me because there's so much other things going on. But when we do that, everything else starts to fall apart because self sacrifice and self abandonment, those things only yield to more of that. That in itself becomes its own loop. And it stems from lack of self love, lack of connectivity to our higher wisdom that's all within us. And when that happens, everything around us becomes very much ego driven and very much in the space of I need to be competitive with everyone around me in order to succeed. I need to self sacrifice and overperform and maybe compromise my values in order to get to Y or Z or whatever. And those are very, not only limiting way of working, it's very damaging. It's very damaging way of working. If I was to see every coach in the world as competition, can you imagine that kind of state of being? If I was to see every woman as competition, can you imagine how much we're missing out from learning from each other, supporting one another, because that's the mindset? When in fact, it is an untrue mindset, right? It comes from a space of being defensive, being offensive, being feeling like there's only room for one person to succeed. That's a scarcity mindset, which I also had, right? So I fully understand where this comes from, but I also know that there is a higher truth, and that truth is that there is space for everybody to have all the things that they want and desire in the best and highest and healthiest way for them. And I experienced that. I experienced the former and I experienced the latter. And so, in thinking about how this solves in a bigger scale, if everyone recognized this, there would be less friction in how we collaborate, in how we endorse one another, in how we see somebody who is starting and could use the support and can use the guidance that may not be getting it because they are being seen as competition or seen as here's a newbie that's coming in to take away something from me. So it's a much deeper um, way of working and collaborating and being. And it boils down to recognizing the oneness that's within us and the oneness with each other. And knowing, like having this divine guidance awakened that all things are possible for everybody.
Mm, I love that so much. It's so true, Engy, and beautiful. Especially, I love the part that you brought up too about the competition,
Mm,
and how when we can get out of that scarcity mindset, because that's what competition is, right? Like you said, it's saying, oh, that person succeeding is taking away something from me. And that's
yeah,
just not true. It's not how
no,
the universe works.
no,
And that's so deeply seated within our subconscious. It's not even just what we've learned in this life, it's what's actually energetically embedded in this planet, which is war mentality. Like that's really what that is. It's winning and losing, right? It's that there's a winner and there's a loser, and not just we all get to rise together. So
that's right.
bringing that in, I mean, is so transformational for the collective, not even just for the individuals, but for the collective, which is so big. So, Engie, it sounds like the people who are really like a great fit for something like Activate or Awaken, I'm sorry. I know it's a very activating course.
It is a very activating
It is,
course,
yes.
yes.
People who are ready for Awaken are obviously these individuals who are recognizing that they're not super happy with how things are going right now in their lives. They're coming up to this friction. They know that there's more. They're curious. They want to feel that deeper connection. And I
Yeah,
think oftentimes for us as professionals, we oftentimes see these individuals and we see them going down all of these roads and trying all of these things, and you want to be like, no, 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 come here, go
yeah,
here.
yeah.
And you know what I mean? Right, let's focus. So what are some of the things that you see people, doing or trying or whatever that you want to say, no, no, come over here, try this.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that for anyone, right, who is feeling like I have a great life, I'm grateful for this life, I love my life, but why do I feel so damn depleted? Why do I feel that I'm not really happy and fulfilled on the inside, right? It's personal questions that no one can answer but the individual. When those things come up, like if you're the person who's having those thoughts, who's having the thought of, there's got to be more to life than the grind, there's got to be more to life than busting my ass 9 to 5 to live paycheck to paycheck. If those thoughts ever come up, then you are ready to think bigger than what you have been programmed to think.
Mm,
And that is the soul that should take the time to ask those questions and to make different decisions, right? The loop breaks when we make a different decision or a different habit than the one that led us to that loop. And we have been programmed to think that loops are eternal. This is who you are, but it's not who you are, right? It's not who you are. So it takes the level of awareness to know I'm having a loop. I'm thinking in this same way, but I'm also feeling like this is not it. This is not it. That's the opportunity to pivot. That's the opportunity to think, okay, I'm going to look into what this could be for me, what the possibility is that lives here that I haven't perhaps looked into before. That would be my guidance is like, listen to the nudges.
mm,
I ignored my nudges in the beginning because they felt too big. I didn't know what to do with them. I didn't know what to do with the feeling and the questions of, is this it? Is this what life is? Go to college, get a job, work for somebody. Perhaps that somebody's mean or cruel. Is this it? Do I just go from one job to the other? Maybe I get a good boss, maybe I don't. Maybe I'm recognized, maybe I don't. Like, is this the cycle? Is this what we go through? And I didn't have the answer for that, so I ignored it. And I thought, well, everyone else is doing this same thing. It can't be a different path for me. Everyone else is on the same path. They're going from one job to the other, from one thing to the other. Everyone seems to be chasing the promotion and the recognition and the more money and the title. I'll get on the train. There's no other train at the station. Like, I'll get on the train. But then you reach a breaking point. You reach a breaking point, and that's an invitation. The
mm,
nudges are an invitation. The breaking point is an invitation. Um, Being curious, that's an invitation. So it's being courageous enough and brave enough to recognize the invitation and then go search.
mm.
Ask the
Yeah.
bigger questions of, okay, it's come up for me. How can I go about navigating the response to this question for myself?
Yeah. And one thing that always blows my mind is for the majority of humans, I feel like we wait until it's so bad. We wait until we're in that crisis. We wait until we've lost the job. We wait and right, like or we get sick or something like that happens before making a change and making a shift. So I feel like, this is where I see sales and marketing as an active service,
Yeah.
of like it's our responsibility as leaders in this space to get this message out there so that people can really wake up to what's possible without waiting for some disaster to happen or to hit, right? Because it's so much harder to come out from that place. Like
Mhm.
imagine if the layoff that you experienced happened 10 years prior, right? Like it would have been such a different situation. You already had that experience and said, "Oh, thank you for the redirection," right? Like, that was beautiful. So I feel like, getting this work out there, spreading the message, sharing the message is so important so that more people can get to that point, right? And
Mhm.
like you said, experience less of that friction
Yes.
and pass that along. And I think that's the really cool thing is that, it's again like it's that ripple effect of you make this impact, somebody now starts to see more potential within themselves, start to love themselves deeper, and all of a sudden now they're kinder in their relationships, they're better bosses, right? They're better family members, they're better community members, and how that impacts, right? That person is no longer looking out, how can I squash my competition, but rather, how can we all collaborate and work together? And
100%.
right, and then those leaders, bring up more of those, you know, employees or whatever, right? People who are reporting to them. Like it's so incredible and so beautiful. I'd love
Yeah.
to hear like what's your vision with as far as like bringing this work into the corporate world or having, doing this work in the realms that you have where you have been and where
Yeah.
you feel really passionate about helping people.
Yeah. I mean, I see my work expanding beyond individuals who are curious and ready, right? And I say ready because you have to have a sense of it's time for me to do something about the nudges, right? Because no one can lead you down that road but you.
Exactly. Cannot be forced. It cannot be, you can't be shamed into it, guilted into it. It has to come from within.
It has
Absolutely.
to come from within. And so I see my work transcending beyond that into corporate. Because imagine if I had had a leader, and I'm grateful for all the leaders I did have, the great ones and the very shitty ones that I had, because they, in their own way, were profound teachers for me in my growth. But imagine what the world would look like in the workspace if leadership was awakened, if leadership didn't manage their team as if they were just working towards a bottom line and actually saw each individual for who they are, for the contribution they bring to the table, for the unique assets that they bring to the table, versus a collective of people that are working towards a bottom line, a delivery of a project, a delivery for a client. And it started to become true collaboration. It started to become clear and transparent communication. It started to feel emotionally safe to be at work. That stems from the top, right? When your leader is operating from a place and managing the team from a place and making decisions from a place of scarcity, of fear, of insecurity, what does that team look like? How is that team receiving guidance from that leader? Right? I was on the receiving end of that. It feels really crappy and it feels really unsettling. And insecurity starts to bubble up because you think you're the next target, right? So, my vision is for that to change, is for that to change. I mean, in a world where AI is taking over many roles, there is a lot of space for emotional intelligence to rise to the top and for leaders to start tapping into that and embodying that and using that to connect with their team, to make decisions from, to see the world through a different lens for themselves too. Because there are also individuals who have likely ignored the nudges, were too afraid to address I will say, I wouldn't even go and say trauma, but wounds of the past, unresolved things that have come up. And they're managing the team from that lens. That's also scarcity and limiting in many different ways. And now it's touching the lives of all the people who are reporting into this individual who is seeing the world through a peephole versus all that it has to offer. So in thinking about where do I want my work to ripple larger, it would be at work. Corporate is not going away. AI will replace some things. It's not going to replace all things. So for the humans that are left doing the jobs that are there, we need to dial up that emotional intelligence and we need to be working from a healed place, from a place where we are trained to see the possibility versus the alternative.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so beautiful. And what would you say, like, what's your big vision in terms of, let's say, we're fast forward a couple years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, even, how do you see your work specifically operating within corporate? Like, do you see yourself going in, training corporate leaders yourself? Do you see yourself partnering with, larger businesses or HR firms or something? Like, like, is it, I imagine at some point it goes beyond selling courses to individuals online who hope, hopefully are leaders. Is there another sort of iteration that you see your work going into?
100%. So I see all of that expanding even more. So I see the coursework becoming even more deep and touches on many different aspects of growth in a different way. And then I definitely see that being working directly with leadership teams, working with the leadership teams and the team that reports into them. It's facilitating trainings for the collective at work, for the entire team, not just an individual. So I definitely see a yes to all of what you have said.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I feel like change really happens, right?
Yeah.
Like it has to happen on site in that space. And I do feel like I think that courses and self-paced materials are so helpful to help get us to a certain point, but then we really need a human to come in and lead through those changes and through those transformations,
Yeah.
right? It's so helpful. And I think that things can happen so much quicker when there's that support and that pull coming in, right, in that other direction. And then obviously like having, courses and materials and things like that for people to like fill in the blanks, right? And like fill in the gaps um and just like continue to expand in that way, like one step at a time.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
And the coursework allows individuals to recognize I'm in a toxic environment, right? And I don't need to be here. There are other options out there. This individual, this leader is not going to change. They have no interest in doing anything different than the way they did them 6 months ago, right? And so it's having the awareness and the courage to say, this situation is never going to change. I deserve better. I'm going to move out. I'm going to find something else. Because ideal world, everybody is operating from a space of consciousness, but we don't live in an ideal world, right? So the next best thing is to have the awareness to recognize when the world around you isn't aligning with you and to pivot into one that is, which
Mm.
I didn't have the courage to do, right? In the beginning of my career, every bad leader I had, or when I was being harassed at work or bullied at work, I didn't think I could go anywhere. I felt that I'm just going to have this again somewhere else. I might as well just stay. What is that saying? Something along the lines of like stay with the enemy, the thing you know versus the thing you don't know, right? Whatever that
Yeah,
saying
I
is.
know exactly what you're saying. I
You know
also
what I'm
can't put
saying?
my finger on what it is,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
like, yeah, exactly. Like you're the devil you know versus the one you don't,
Yes,
or something like that. Yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah, it's
yes.
true. I mean, there's so much fear in the unknown because I think there's also not just is it going to be just like this, but also is it going to be worse? At least
Right,
I know what I have right now and right here. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
What do you feel like it takes somebody to get to that point to actually be ready to and have that courage?
I think stillness in the day, right? A lot of
Mm,
us run through the day like we're on a mission from God knows where, right?
right.
And we are just slamming through the to-do list and
Mhm.
one meeting to the other. And our day is chaotic, but there are no pauses in the day to reflect. There are
Yeah.
no pauses in the day to say, that kind of went sideways. What happened there? What was my role in that? Right? These pauses offer glimpses into the nudges, into the possibility, into recognizing that something could have been better had I shown up in a different way.
Mm.
But without the intentional pauses in the day, it's really hard to all of a sudden, unless somebody has had a profound experience, an accident, a layoff, a thing to jolt them awake, there needs to be intention to just pause throughout the day. How am I feeling? Self check ins are so important. That was one of the first things I did with the team when I was in corporate is self check in. How did you feel after that meeting? Does it feel, because your body's not going to lie to you. Your nervous system is not going to lie to you. Are you feeling good? Did it feel like we were on the same page? Or did you walk away feeling that was a shit show and no one actually heard each other in the right way? So these pauses offer a gift of, I may need to pivot here, or I may have deeper questions here. That's when somebody is ready.
Yeah. That's really beautiful advice. And I know the majority of people listening here are also in the entrepreneurial world. And I think that's advice that we really need to echo out into that space as well, because it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing when you become an entrepreneur and you just now, like every waking moment is dedicated towards making this business work and, getting clients and trying to show up in all the places. And I think we get stuck in the same ways, even though we break out of traditional work and come into working for ourselves because we want to have more of that freedom. And then we almost end up putting ourselves in our own little corporate jail inadvertently, especially those of us who have been in corporate before and are sort of used to that behavior. It took a long
Structure.
time for me to decondition from all of that. And
Yeah.
so I feel like for everybody listening, taking this advice of giving yourself those pauses and that stillness throughout your day after you get off of a call or a live or a podcast or anything that you're doing within your business in your day-to-day life, to pause and give yourself that time to say, "Ooh, how did that go? How did that feel?" Right? Because I feel like everything in life gets easier when we do start to just listen to ourselves and give
Yes.
ourselves that time and space. And like you said, your body is always speaking to you. I'm actually currently in a somatics program right now that I'm taking and receiving, and it's just really incredible. Like I'm recognizing how much I was really running from my feelings, not like my
Mm,
emotions, but my feelings, and how
yeah.
like I just didn't even feel safe to like even like be in my body and stay with that, whatever that was, with disappointment or frustration or what, or just avoidance, and like what, like what's actually happening within here. And it's already been just so changing for me over the last couple weeks of giving myself more of those moments of really, like I'm already big on the stillness. I take breaks, I meditate, I do all those things, but for me, it was that switch of really listening to my body specifically. And I feel
Yeah.
like for each of us, because I think, especially again, everybody listening here, we're spiritual, we're holistic, we do a lot of the things, we take our own medicine, but there's always more. And not to say what you're doing isn't enough, like that's not that message, but there is always, I feel like, a little bit more to where we're hiding
It's
from
deeper.
ourselves.
Right.
It's deeper. It's deeper. It's deeper.
Yeah.
So give yourself those times and listen to those cues, right?
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
Our businesses are coded with our energy. So when the
Exactly.
business is coded with our energy and our energy is wonky
Mhm.
because it's diluted with, I am not good enough. I need to self-sacrifice for the business to thrive. I need to XY for this to happen. That's what the business will do,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly.
That's what the business will do. And the body holds the stories. Every organ holds a different story, a different feeling, a different experience, and they don't go away
Right.
until you heal them,
Yes.
right? Because they're
Yeah.
there holding the wisdom from whatever has happened in life, but we're so inundated with the things that not need to be done on a daily basis, the running, the making the money, that we don't stop to think or ask the bigger question of what is the wisdom sitting here so I can release this,
Mhm.
right? Because when you release it, that's where the real freedom steps in. That's when possibility becomes possible,
Right.
right? I developed this beautiful course called The Body Decoded, and it speaks specifically to what the organs are holding. Because I was seeing with my clients that intellectually, they were getting all of the information, but then there was still stuff sitting with them. And it shows up in ailments in the physical body, digestive issues. Maybe it's a headache that doesn't go away. Maybe it's your vision blurs. You have perfect eyesight and then the vision is blurring. What's going on? Maybe the body is achy. All those things are nudges.
Mm.
They're all nudges, and they hold such deep divine wisdom in all of it, even the aches and the pains and the yuck feelings. There's divine wisdom. And once that wisdom bubbles to the surface, because the work has been done, right? The work has to be done. There's no bypassing any of this work. There is no shortcut. You got to do the work. But then the reward on the other side, the fulfillment on the other side, the pure joy and inner peace on the other side, it's worth all the work.
It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
the body decoded, from what I remember, is that's a continuation of awaken, right? Awaken is sort of that first step. You're building the skills, you're learning to listen, you're learning to be with yourself and see the loops and the patterns. And then the body decoded is sort of where you go next, right? When you are ready to go deeper into the next layer. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing.
It's a deeper body of work,
Mhm.
and it's recommended for individuals to go through Awaken first because it heightens their intuition and
Right.
emotional intelligence, and they're able to hear things. Not to say that you couldn't take the body decoded on its own. You can. It's more helpful. You'll get more out of it when you take the Awaken course first, because now you are able to recognize a belief system that comes up versus a truth,
Mhm.
versus um, a programming, versus I'm making decisions from a place of fear here, right?
Yeah.
So it's important to like address that stuff
Mhm.
and to come to a better place of self-awareness and a better place of deep self-understanding, self-love, self-compassion. We tend to like overlook those for ourselves, but they're actually keys. They are keys that should be honored in order to open the gate for the bigger stuff.
Yeah. Yes. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So, Engy, how can people follow you, be in touch with you, connect with your work?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. So my handle is ng_Neville. A different way to follow me is through my website, which is Embracing Zen with Engy. And in the website, there is the links to all of the different courses that I offer. And so take advantage, there's plenty of free courses that I have developed and created for you guys, for everyone that is interested in wanting to do the work, but maybe not quite ready to make the bigger commitment. Um, there's plenty of resources there that can help illuminate some things that may be coming up for individuals. So I would say that those are the best two places. And I'm happy to drop in also the link for the direct course to Awaken as well to make things easier.
Yes, I'll put all of that in the show notes. Amazing. And you're on
Amazing.
Substack too, right? My
I am
favorite
on
platform.
Substack. Yes, I'm on Substack and I am on LinkedIn. So
Yeah,
you could find me in both with my name. I didn't use Embracing Zen with Engy for either one. I kept it with my name so it's easier to find me.
awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on and for sharing your wisdom and your brilliance and most importantly, sharing your work with the world. I mean, again, like this is so needed. And I'm really excited to continue to follow your journey, Engy. Thanks.
Thank you so, so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure to talk about this with you. And I'm deeply grateful for this work. And I'm deeply grateful that I have been chosen to share this with people who are ready for it.
Mm, excellent.